Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, show number 35. We are your hosts, Dave
and Violet.
Jason can't be with us today. He's on travel. Our guest today is Corinne Echols. Corinne spent many years as a computer professional. For several years, she questioned if this was her life purpose. After feeling frustrated and empty, she took the chance and moved to Denver. She signed up for an introduction to Metaphysics class that was transformational. During the healing portion, she found that she could see the energy blocks in the body. In later classes, she found that she could sense the aura and see its colors. She then decided to obtain a formal education in herbology, aromatherapy, crystal healing, color therapy, holistic pain management, professional relaxation, and Iridology. Corinne has found her joy in helping others find a path to facilitate their own healing and happiness. So welcome, Corinne. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Share with us a little bit, Corinne, about, your journey, the spiritual journey, because we all kind of take this path of finding our way, and for all of us it has some differences but also has some similarities.
Sure. I found when I was much younger, especially my teenage years, that I started to sense things that were happening and could hear or see things and didn't really know what was going on. I remember my mom took me to Lilydale, and we were walking around through, there's a wooded area you go through before it opens to an arena where they do readings. And I remember walking through there, and I could sense that there were things looking at me, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, what's going on? This is, like, really weird. And so, and I just felt like, it's one of those feelings where you feel like your skin's tingling and things like that, and didn't really kind of know what was happening. So I think, it started to wake up fairly early. I also remember the night my stepfather passed away. My father came to wake me up. It was in the middle of the night, and when he opened the door, I was awake, and I looked at him and said, what happened? And he stood there for 5 minutes like, what's going on? Like, how did you sense this, right? And so, but I just knew something had happened, something really bad, and so these things kept happening, and the first time I heard spirit was when my father was transitioning, and I had this conversation back and forth with God, and literally telling him, like, nope, you're not doing this. You're not taking my dad today. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't work that way. So, we kind of made a,
not your decision.
Not your decision. Like, sorry, this is kind of mine. And I'm like, nope, my will, not yours. And he's like, little girl. And so, and it was so natural, that I just knew I could hear. And as time went on, I just knew there was something bigger. There was something more that I was meant to do. So I kind of moved out. And once I came to Denver, things just kind of opened, which I don't know how many people know that Denver is one of those places in the world that's like what they call a spiritual center. When you come here, it has this cosmic thing that opens up people's gifts, and that's why there's so many of us here.
Yeah, I think that's true for the whole Front Range area. Mm-hmm. You start at Pueblo and you go all the way up to Fort Collins. The concentration of light workers here is phenomenal, and there's a yin and yang, so we also get the dark workers here.
Right, the dark workers, absolutely.
And they maintain a balance wherever you go.
For sure. So, as my journey went on, I realized, people kept telling me I have 1 foot in light and 1 foot in dark. And what you realize with that, typically, that's perfect, right? It's a perfect balance, but it also means that you have what people typically call as shamanic. You're able to kind of do that shadow work as well as being in the light. Mm-hmm. And, they always say shamans aren't made. You can't call yourself one. You have to be called by spirit. And so I've always felt honored to hold that. And my goal is to take people out of the dark, the dark night of the soul, and to bring them into lightness, because I spent many years there. Mm-hmm. Traveling through and doing that shadow work and being able to walk through there.
Well, there's some truth that we're able to help others take the same journey that we've taken ourselves, because we've been there and done that. And I know in my practice, I attract people with similar backgrounds and experiences to me, and I think that's kind of your beacon of light that goes out there and calls your people to you that have similarities, because if you don't have an understanding, sometimes it's hard to help, right?
Yeah, if you're afraid of going into the dark places, I meet so many people that are light workers and they just want to stay in the light.
Mm-hmm.
They don't ever want to look at what's dark or scary, which is fine for them, and I get it. But sometimes you have to look at the shadow. Sometimes I always say, if you don't appreciate the darkness, is always what gives us that appreciation for light. If there were not any dark, we would be in light all the time, and we would not have any experience of knowing what happens when things get thrown off a little.
Yeah, and ultimately wouldn't have any growth.
Right, exactly. That is what,
Growth comes through challenge.
Absolutely.
It does, and it's
Absolutely.
hard for people to understand that, right? Why has my life been tough? Well, it's made you strong. You signed up for it for that reason. It's helped you to overcome.
Right.
If you'd have had an easy life, a gentle, sweet life, you wouldn't be as strong as you are. You wouldn't be the warrior that you come through those challenges being, because you learn how to do that. So there's some gifts and obstacles and challenges that we can't always see when we're in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I always call you my medicine woman. You always look at me like I'm crazy, but I see you as the medicine woman. You're very much have a deep understanding of herbs, and talk to us a little bit about the herbs and how you work with them, because I think that's really a powerful piece for you.
Right. That natural working with those properties of the herbs, I think we can change things. There's so many things that happen in medicine, where we're given certain, properties of these plants. That's literally where medicine comes from, is they take the plants and they extract out what they think is the healing, but they lose something. They lose the energy of the plants, right? And so understanding that we are energetic bodies and these plants are energetic bodies, we can bring them together and really raise our vibration and bring about healing by understanding how those two work together. And, that's something that I know we're working on and bringing in, is more of a plant shamanism, which literally means you're using plants as allies. So you're seeing them as these living beings that can talk to you and tell you, how they can work with you and how you can use them as a tool for healing. And that's kind of what, I'm bringing forth now, is some of that information, even understanding how your astrology, so how you came in, what, dates and planets were aligned when you came in, and how that will interact with the medicines that you take. Even the allopathic medicines will work better if you understand those properties. So that's kind of the...
What are some good examples that you've seen where plant medicine has been a powerful remedy for different things? Can you share with us some examples of where you've been able to help people and what was going on?
Sure. So a lot of times when you take things like calendula, which is a happy little, it's kind of type of marigold, right? And you mix it with rose and herbs like that, it can actually raise your physical vibration from the plant. So people that are going through sad, depressive times, taking that in as a tea or using it as a salve will actually raise their physical vibration. At the same time, the salve, being that it's, whether it's beeswax or something like olive oil mixed in with all that, will actually heal the skin. So then people are putting it on and they're actually experiencing different changes. For my grandmother, she had a kidney disease. So she had, crystallized in her kidneys, which causes crystals in the shoulder to happen. And we used oils for that. So we used helichrysum, frankincense, lavender, things like that, all put together into like a lotion, and she would put on her shoulder, and it actually gave her pain relief. And so, these things are much better than if, sometimes she was using over the counter. Sometimes there's things in that will hurt, especially elderly skin, because it's so frail. But these herbs actually and oils have this really gentle property in there, which would really help her on, get that pain out of her shoulders and things like that. And that was probably the most rewarding, was to see her just going through all that. And she was going through a dementive state, and even putting it on her shoulder, even in that state, she would raise her shoulder up to get more of it, and you just put it on there, and she would just be like, really? So those are always good moments, when you're seeing when you can give someone something and their pain's going away or their mood's shifting and changing.
Well, I love that because my granddaughter Cora was stuffed in the head with all this stuffiness, and she couldn't seem to get relief. And Corinne goes, "Go get peppermint." She goes, "What do you want me to do with peppermint?" "I want you to rub it on the bottom of your feet."
Foot, yeah.
And she's like, "Ooh, why?" She goes, "Just do it." So she rubs it on the bottom of her feet. She's like, "Corinne, I can taste it." And she's like, "Good, and it's working." And then all of a sudden it starts draining and running, and she's feeling better and sitting up. And so now the kids, when they get sick, they're like, "Okay, where's the peppermint? We're going to put it on the bottom of her feet."
Or when she had that broken foot, and she came down, and they're like, she comes downstairs, she's like, she broke her foot, do something. And so we started using some oils for that. We used some knit bone and stuff like that on her foot to help heal that. And a couple days later, I'm like, "How you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, its pain's gone." So it's nice to be able to use natural things to help with that.
It is really cool. It's cool. I love watching that piece, and I love when people know how to do it. Right? There's some things very natural of being able to connect, and I'm always fascinated and interested, but to have a really deep knowing of the herbs, I think it's really, really powerful piece to do that.
It's fun too. I mean, it's interesting. We've had a lot of fun growing different things or
cooking different things.
Or Tom and I with the mead, so we were making mead for weeks.
Testing
mead. She's like laughing as we're testing all the time. So.
Then we had quiche.
Better test some more.
Test some more.
Quiche was something. What did the quiche have in it?
Nettle. Stinging nettle. Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, all right, here we go. And she'll bring tea and say, here taste this. Test this. She has this rose cream that I absolutely love, so I can't wait till she makes some more.
Yeah, that takes 4 weeks for the oils to fuse, put all the flowers and plants in and let it sit there for 4 weeks. So,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember when I took a oils class over at Red Rocks, and they said, the most expensive one is rose. If you get a true
rose
extracted oil.
Yeah,
That's
it takes
the most expensive one. Yeah. How many petals it takes?
30,000.
Yeah.
30,000 petals to just get 1 gram, because if you break a rose, nothing comes out of it, right? So most plants have a natural defense, and that really is what the oils are. It's their natural defense to keep other insects and things away from them. Yeah. And rose doesn't have one. So when you crack it, it has very, very little oil that'll come out of it naturally. So it takes 30,000 and a really steam distillation to get it to come out at all. So, but it's amazing when you think about that, which is why it's so expensive.
Well, the one that I found that was so strong, because I used to say, well, just put a tiny bit on your third eye, and that was lotus.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, man, you put a little bit of that on in the morning, you're going to be wafting fumes all day long. It's one of the strongest, most persistent oils.
Right, but it's also very poignant for opening that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's always a good one.
Well, tell us your thoughts about CBD. That's everywhere in the news. It's being touted as the cure for everything, and nothing ever is. So, but what are your views on CBD oil?
I think that's going to be one of those things that are going to be very hard to make sure it's pure. Right? So again, it comes down to the methods of extraction and how clean those are. Yeah. There are chemical extractions, which is sometimes easier. That's, the difference between an auto and an absolute, right? You're using a solvent. And so if they're using that, yes, their yield will be higher on the CBD, but it also, what are they doing to get the solvent out? That usually takes several processes of running it through the extraction process to get the solvent back out. And if they're not, then you're not taking a pure product. Right, so with the CBD, I think, marijuana obviously was put here for a reason. I do believe it was put here. There are healing properties of it. I think you have to be very careful of it, right? Because it could also be damaging. There's still companies that test you to see if you have marijuana in your body. And there's a lot of times people say CBD doesn't have enough to be detectable. That's not true. And that is, again, going to come down to the extraction process.
Right.
And I think it would be disastrous for having people out there that are going to take this, think that they're taking a product that is not going to be tested and, pick up, and then they'll lose their jobs because it is, right? Because so just finding something that's pure, I think it's so early in the extraction of it that I think there's still some dangers in there. And, people are doing this in labs, they're not, which probably a little bit better than the people that are trying to do it at home. Right. And so I think you just have to be really careful right now. And I think it's going to take a while to really know if it's a really pure product that you're using. Does it have promise? Yes. I think any plant has promise of that there's something in it that, we can take for its benefit, but who knows if the CBD is really the right way to go. The key thing, yeah. And it's such a tricky thing. So.
And we see it helping people, right? It has some healing properties.
For sure.
But using it as a leverage is a whole other thing, right? Or life change, or recreation, or all that. If it's to help with pain or some of the other stuff that it's helping with, and that's the healing element of it, and getting the purest piece that we can
It's
get.
got such it's like, I think it's anything in our world, right, that you put a financial benefit on along with healing, then sometimes those things kind of get a little crossed, right? So I think that's where the danger comes in. If you're doing it for profit making, which has become such a profit thing, then sometimes the healing, the purpose of it could get lost because you're not going to keep the same standards because you're producing it for financial gain. And I think that's where the trade-off happens. And hopefully, as more states become legal, I'm hoping that profit thing will settle out and it will be more of a desire of true healing for it, as opposed to using it for the profit of healing and the marketability of it.
There's things, and energy changes on this stuff. So the Prozac, when it first came out, seemed to be a wonder drug. It helped people with depression and everything. Now they're going back and looking into studies, and it looks like it doesn't have much more effect than a placebo. And so, from my point of view, I see this as one of those things that, when it initially came out, it tied into an energy concept that was very high vibration in the spiritual plane, and now it's dropped down to what I would say is a morphic field that is less than the spiritual plane, and therefore there's energy there from people's expectations, but there's not energy there for it to have an effect.
Correct, and I think that's the whole, because now it's being mass produced, and, so are we picking the right strain of of marijuana that will have healing? It's the same thing. Most people don't know this, there are 3 to 4 different strains of frankincense. Right?
And you have to get the right one.
We have to get the right one. One is really good for healing. One is really good for meditative and should be burned in the churches and, for clearing for our, business and space. One is kind of good at both, but you have to know the difference. And if you're
remind me of the oil that you use for arthritis that comes out of frankincense.
It's the Freesia one.
Okay.
So it's that version is the one that I use. It's really simple to know those different properties from, not to plug anybody, but Eden's Garden has each one of them separated. Okay. Some of the other oil companies, you'll find that 3 of them are merged. So to really you'll get some healing property, but not as high as if you can get that oil separated out. Right. So I think it's important to know what you're using things for, because it's so, even in that world, it's so prominent out there to say hey, use this will help you do that. But it's the certain version of that's important, because the other ones won't have the same effect.
And also really researching companies, right? Because we've talked a lot about which oils are being, processed correctly, don't have chemicals in them, how they're doing that, what's showing up, are they at high levels, are they diluted, are they pure, and so it really takes some time and discernment to really look at all those elements.
For sure, and it's worth taking that time, right? So even if you think that there's a company that has really good pure oil, are they ethically farming that product, right? Because sometimes that's where you're ooh, you know? So knowing not only where you're getting the product from, is it clear, is it clean, but knowing that if there's an energy that's coming with it, how do we clear that energy off, right? And knowing those tools that we use every day to clear space, well, you should be clearing your oils as well, right? Because you don't know that company has become a profit-based company, so there is some energy there, right? And, you know, some of the two top companies started getting into a battle with each other, right? So there's an energy there, right?
Yeah.
And so the oil may be pure, but that energy is still attached sometimes to those products, and you have to be able to clear them. And to just know that you should clear them and then use them for whatever you're doing.
Are there, what I would say, deceptive or unethical companies out there selling synthetic oils?
For sure. There's many. And there's a simple test you can do. It sounds really weird, but if you just take a white piece of computer paper and you hit the oil on it, the oils that are pure will dry very clear, right? It'll just be a clear spot. The ones that have a carrier in it with it dry like an egg. It'll literally have a yellow center to it. And that yellow center to the oil is the carrier. And sometimes it's that easy to see it. And it's, you know, I always test them when they go, just to do that little test and put it up on the white plate, see how it dries. Because there's a lot of companies that are sold, especially in the grocery stores and the health stores, that are very, very popular. And they are not clean. And because they're using a carrier, it could be literally one drop of the actual essence that you're buying. So one drop of frankincense, and the rest of it's like coconut oil. Well, that doesn't necessarily help you, because then if you're diluting it to put it into something that you're giving someone, a salve or something, you're diluting further, right? And so you're not getting as high as a mark of that. So, and usually really simple internet searches will tell you like what's in it. There's been a lot of companies that have gone back and researched them.
Yeah.
And you can find it in that, you know, you could find research where they compare all the companies and tell you, like, which one's the top, this is why, because they've actually used machinery to tell you that.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, just for cooking purposes, everybody uses vanilla extract, but there's very little natural vanilla out there. I mean, it's big bucks if you get it, and I don't care if you go to Mexico and think you're getting a pint for $10 and it's a bargain because it's in Mexico. It's still synthetic because it's very easy chemically to synthesize.
And I think that goes back to the profitability, right?
Yeah.
So vanilla is something that everybody wants. You're going to put it in just about everything you're baking, right? And so it's, again, I can give you a little bit of it, and you as the consumer don't know how much you're getting.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to really work on healing or raising someone's vibration in something, you want to go out and make sure that you're getting the best. And that just takes time and research.
Yeah.
You know, so you just have to be aware and careful of it. Yeah.
It's really awesome. So you also work with feathers.
I do.
And the bird energy. Talk to us a little bit about that journey and what took you down that path.
Sure. Years ago, when I first was, I did my first show, I was sitting really close to Garrett Duncan. For people, yes, they start laughing because they know Garrett. He's great.
He's such a subtle person.
Isn't he?
Just so laid back.
So laid back.
Just laid back.
And he was doing Featherway, and he was clearing people, and the direction that he was shooting, the energy he was taking off was at me, right? And so, for this, you know, Gail Fowler-Gail was like, stop doing that to her, right? And so I went to him and was like, okay, clear what you just did, right? And so he started doing it, and, you know, Garrett, he kind of was in the middle of doing it, and all of a sudden he flung my shoulder around. He goes, when are you taking the Featherway? And I had signed up for it the next day, and he goes, good, and then he kind of throws me back, and then he's like, oh, and you're going to teach it. So what I found is that I can feel the energy of the feathers and the birds, right? So they mean something to me when I'm working with them. You know, like every shaman has their tool, and, you know, we have several. But with the feather, we found that you can clear the auric field. So you're clearing the junk out of the aura, as well as using it to clear blocked energy. So that's, a class that we have here, and, I use the feathers and I make feather wands for the purposes of being able to get that energy out. But it's such a gentle way of getting blocked energy out of the body. Sometimes we use our hands, the feathers a little bit safer, just to come down and scrape down the body, like whether you're doing it for yourself or for a client. You can just clear the energy, and people can usually feel it. They can feel it lightened up. And then when you add in techniques like the Divine Feminine, they can usually feel that calming of it. Or using it to cut through the field like an axe, which is really what we call the warrior. It kind of pumps them up again and gives them more of that oomph feeling. So, yeah, the feathers are a neat way to work with those energy fields. So it's just another one of those tools.
Well, individuals tend to be drawn to that class because they either are very attracted to feathers, they find feathers, they want to learn more about feathers, they want to learn about the bird spirit animals, and you give information in the class not only on featherweight and clearing, but how to clean feathers and about the different birds. And the one thing that I learned is there's legal feathers and illegal feathers that you can have.
Yeah, that's a very important lesson, especially here.
If it has eagle in it, it's probably illegal.
That's a good one, Dave. That's a good one. I'll remember that. We may use that going forward.
Yeah, my grandfather, one of his little puns that he always used on us was, that'd be illegal. You know what that is? Well, what, Grandpa? A sick bird. An ill eagle.
A little eagle, yes. Those are not good things, yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing that feathers you cannot pick up and touch, but it's important to know that because you can make some mistakes, and it would be such a silly
Is it just bald eagles, or are there other raptors?
Believe it or not, it's almost anything that flies in the U.S. is on the flight lists for illegal feathers. That means blue jays, cardinals, blackbirds. It's insane, the number of feathers. And then it gets really gray because technically mallards are on that list. But you're allowed to hunt, right? You go duck.
Yeah.
So how do you know? These are legal.
You're
right?
going to pluck the duck.
You're going to pluck the duck after, because hopefully you're eating that thing that you just hunted, right?
Yeah.
So that would be the ethical thing to do. But technically they're on the list. So you just have to, it's really weird. The ones that they're really going to worry about are going to be your owls, your eagles, your hawks, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, there's no legal hunt for those, so how did you get them? Yeah. However, they molt all the time, right?
Molt,
so they're pulling them out. So, but to be on the safe side, because people were hunting them, that all comes back from the 20s when they used to put all the feathers in their hats.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were killing so many birds for that these laws came out to stop that fashion.
I suppose we can just hang around wind farms and wait for the feathers to fall on
Right.
They're falling from God. Whap! There's another one.
There was another one, right?
Are you going to videotape it so that you can have proof? Look, it fell out of the sky.
Like really,
I got video.
the really silly things are like eagles. So the American eagle is what's illegal. Okay.
The bald eagle.
The bald and the American eagle. Eagles don't just stay in America. They fly to North, Canada. They fly south. They fly all the way to China, right? So there are eagles everywhere. And so technically, there are ways to find Chinese eagles, right?
Oh, okay.
And have them shipped in. It's illegal to have them, and you'd have to, so in featherweight, I always say, just don't be stupid. I can't say to you, don't ever do it, because you're going to do it. Right? You're going to be walking through and you're going to find a feather. You're going to pick it up, whether you know it's an eagle or not. You might, right? Especially here, you're hiking.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be online and you're going to see turkey and it's going to be a 12-inch feather and you're like, oh, I want that. No, that's not a turkey. Just saying. If it's a turkey that large, we have problems. So, right? But people are going to do that and they're going to get them. And then it's like, don't show them. Don't have them out in public. Don't walk around and do that. Unless you're a native, a true first American, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And even at that, they have to have license. They have to be a registered member of the tribe to get it. and then they can get them legally. The government will actually send them to them. So some of those wind farm accidents, those feathers are sent to, tribal members. So it's just, it is something I talk about because I think people should know, because that's always the first question. Well, I was walking and I found an owl. Pray over it, bury it, keep going, right? So is the way that you would talk about them, so it's just one of those things.
Well, it's kind of a side note, like some areas outside when we're walking are sacred. It's sacred to nature, sacred to the elementals. I mean, we've talked about this. You don't pick up a rock or a tree or any, a limb or anything out there without asking permission, because it can be part of a sacred space, and you take it home and you're like, oof, I just removed something and I shouldn't have. It needs to be put back. I mean, we see that in national parks. I love those stories where people walk through and they pick up stuff and take it home, and now they're shipping it back to the
we see that happens in Hawaii.
Parks to put it back.
Hawaii lava.
Putting it back.
And also
just please put it back.
Like it's
They
angry.
had like a pile of lava at one of the airports or something where people brought it back and said, okay, you can keep it.
That's what they say that happens all the time. They're like, don't take it.
Yeah,
Pele gets angry.
Pele was upset with me.
And then they have all this that they ship back to Hawaii. Imagine getting this thing open up, all these boxes of lava. Come on, people.
Somebody's got to take the truck and take it all back to her, right? Right? You're now responsible. You've got it.
There are sacred spaces, and even when we also teach, when you find a bird that's laying there and you say, like, hey, can I have one of your feathers? You ask, and the spirit of that animal will usually come back and say, yes, you can take a feather. You always listen to how many. If it says one, don't take the whole bird. Take one and then move on, right? So, and then hopefully you're burying that animal, or at least, like we carry tobacco to put over the animal, so that we're just kind of honoring it in its way, or sage or something. Part of the feather way, like you said, I teach people how to clear the feathers of any damage. There's a little prayer or statement that I make over them as I clean and bless them to release that energy as well.
Okay. Well, we need to take a little break here.
Sure.
We'll be back shortly, and please stay tuned for some information about the shop.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master Teacher of the Akashic Records series of classes here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you've been interested in the Akashic Records are the life book or the etheric records of everything that we've ever thought, spoken, done, all of our contracts, relationships since we left Source. It is a valuable resource of information that people are able to tap into to get clarity, to get guidance, just to find out why things are the way they are in their life. The Akashic really helps us do that. This is a great series of classes if you're already getting intuitive information, meaning you're either getting visuals, or you're hearing things, or you just know things, or you feel things. This is a great class to step into to amplify the information that you're receiving from a higher level of source versus just your intuition. If you'd like to find out more about my series of classes for the Akashic Records, please check out on our website under classes and look for Akashic Record Certification. I hope to see you in class, or I hope to see you at the center here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Have a great day, and thanks for listening.
Well, welcome back. We're with guest Corinne Echols, and we're talking about all kinds of cool things.
Herbs and feathers.
These are crazy things, yes.
And, the other thing that Corinne does is she makes feather wands. We actually sell them in the store when the store's open. It's going to be open again. Feather wands that she hand makes and creates, and they're absolutely beautiful. So, to use for a feather way. So, always check those out as well.
Yeah, that's fun for me. It's very relaxing, therapeutic for me to create those ones, and they can be used for featherweight and for smudging and other.
And then recently you've been making rattles.
I am making rattles now, yes. So sometimes when you're working with people, they have stuck energy. And the rattle is a good way of shaking that free, or to clearing, dark energies that are around a person with the rattle. So yes, we're in the process of doing rattles as well. And there's always
let's see, you're using some type of protected turtle, right?
Very funny. Turtles are one of those things that people eat, right? So it is rescuing them. Yeah. Those are the ones I've ever used or worked with, are the ones that people have consumed, and then they save the shell. There's something I have personally about using more of that animal to really, put full use of it, so we're not just eating the meat and trashing the rest of it. There's something that I feel gives respect back to that, to be able to use the full thing. So, using the feathers is one way, using the shells are another, so we use leather from, the cows and the buffalo and stuff like that. So being able to use as much as that animal that's being hunted in is great. I have a buffalo drum. I have a deer drum. So again, just honoring back and using that animal is in a sacred way.
It's really important. One of the other classes that you offer at the center is your crystal healing. Talk to us a little bit about that class, that program.
Yeah, crystals, as we all know, we all collect them. We use them for clearing. We use them for raising vibration. The crystal healing, what I teach is how you can put crystals around the body and form a grid, which will automatically put them in a high vibrational field. And then laying crystals on to either balance the chakras, opening the third eye can be done with labradorite. And so teaching about the different properties of crystals and how they can be used to, again, clearing things out of the body, raising vibration, and things like that. So that's what we do in crystal healing. It's a lot of learning about crystals, learning the history of how long they've been used, and then laying them on the body and watching people experience it. So everybody lays in the grid, so they learn how to do it, but they also experience the differences and how that can really change and shift and clear things out. And that's a really nice way. And most of the time people will fall asleep in the grid. So the longer you have them in the grid, they'll just drift off. And that's a really gentle way, again, of clearing energy fields.
Or they come off the table a little lightheaded, and we need to ground them before they fall over.
Yes.
Just have some grounding chocolate.
That's always perfect, isn't it?
Twist my arm. I need some more grounding here.
That's right. Bring that. Well, you've been at the center for quite a while now, so I know you work with clients and schedule one-on-one appointments. Talk to us a little bit about some of the services you offer, and what type of people you love to work with, and how you can help people in what areas.
Sure. I do reading, so I use the Akashic Records to help people seeing how things that are happening in their life now were affected by maybe agreements they made coming in, or past life things that they're still trying to clear out. I also do the crystal healings. We do journeys. So sometimes what I do with people who are working through, especially coming out of that dark night of the soul, is to have them either go in and look at the event that brought them in through a journey. And by doing it that way, you kind of see it as a movie. You're not reliving it. And with having me with them, I can make sure that they don't get caught in the energy of that. But sometimes they'll be able to see it as a bystander, and then they can say, oh, let me rescue that little child. Like if it's my little inner child self that went through that, I can rescue that child back and say it's okay. And so we go through an exercise of saying, what would you say if you were the parent of that child now? What would you say to help that child? And writing that out sometimes is very healing for people. So I do a lot of journey work with my clients, as well as a lot of really writing and diarying with things like that, because you need to be able to talk to yourself. Sometimes we put things on the shelf, and that's always the stuff that comes back and haunts us, right? We put it away, and we always think, oh, I dealt with that. I put it behind me. But things happen and there's triggers that come back. And so sometimes you have to take that box back off the shelf and open it and really look at it. And I find that the shamanic journeying technique helps people do that. It helps them look at it. And there's, I've had clients that said, that didn't really hurt me. Like, it didn't affect me at all. I remember it, but it didn't, affect me. And we'll go into that state, and they're looking at it, and they're like, and I said, so how do you feel? And they're like, oh, wow, that really hurt. I feel like, and it's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? And then they're able to really work through and move through it. So that's a lot of what I do. So what kind of clients do I want? I want the clients that are ready. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of call that I put out. I want the client that's really able to work at it. If they're coming just to have me solve it for them, I can't help them, right? So I can't do the work for them. I can only lead them on the path and kind of guide them to do the work themselves. And I'm always there to help guide on that. So that's primarily what I want to do, and what I've been working on is, like I said, to be the beacon of light that helps them get out of the tunnel. To kind of like put themselves on the path to healing, spiritually, emotionally healing. So, yeah.
You're also creating some new things.
A lot of new things coming, yes. I'm coming up with a plant shamanism course. So it's going to be several things where we're going to look at the herbs. We're going to talk about them in detail and talk about how they can be used, not just in healing, but really to raising the vibration and getting, different things out of it. So a different spin most of the time when you take an herbal class, it's like this herbal has this properties. And so these are the things that it can help you with from a medical type of perspective. I want to do it as a combined spiritual perspective. I also want to use the journeying to go meet that plant and to really build, to see what that plant is actually saying it can do for you. So that's coming soon.
Yeah, what happens when the plant just says, I am Groot?
Groot was very helpful, though. But yeah, that could maybe that should be your mascot for your class. I am Groot.
I am Groot.
But in time, they understood what Groot was saying, so just saying. He still was communicating. Right?
I love that. And everybody loves it, especially when he dances at the end. I think that could be a whole program all by itself,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, I know you've been working on several things and kicking around, like you would like to be able to offer a real shamanism course at some point.
I do. So. I wanted, and whether you're calling it shamanism or medicine work, from the, but I do want to offer that. I think it's needed. I think it's something that people have a curiosity of, but I think there's things that you can learn and apply it in other areas. So yes, that one's.
So for our listeners that might not understand, what is a journey?
So a journey is a different kind of meditation, really. So it really is kicking in your imagination. So you've heard of like guided meditations. It's sort of like doing that on steroids, because you have a drum typically, and that beat of that drum has a method of taking you from like into the alpha state, that state of just dream consciousness where you're going deeper. And so when you do that on a journey, you have visualizations, so you're walking through different levels of being. So from the shamanic world, there's three that we see. There's an upper, middle, and a lower. We're kind of above middle in this consciousness, but middle is actually a place you go lower, and that's usually what I always tell people, that's your happy place. So there's always a place that we take people when they're in the middle, where they find that place they could go to that's peace and happiness. And then there's the lower world, is usually where you're looking at the shadow. So that is always a darker place, so to speak. And then upper is that realm. It can be the angelic realm. It can be, it's always just higher. And so when you're journeying, you have an intent of where you're going. And so by using the drum and going into that meditative state, you're actually walking through, and you can clear things, or you can encounter guides. We always take people in first to meet their spiritual guides, their animal guides, so which will help them, especially when you go into the lower realm, because usually we say take your guide with you. right? So you have this protector that's walking with you, because sometimes that can be scary when you're looking at your shadow. And so there's just different ways of going, and it tends to be a very deep type of meditative state that you go into, and that's really a journey. And the drum will take you there, and the drum will bring you back, because of the different beats and the different way of playing it. And that's always good. I mean, I don't know how many of you have like astro traveled or something where you're in this state, and sometimes you get in this place and you're like, really, how do I get back? And so the drum can call you back, and so that's really what a journey is.
Very cool. I didn't know if everyone would know what a journey is, because that's a term that we use a lot, but people new to the path are like, oh, we're going on a vacation. Let's go. Right? So it's always nice to clarify what a journey is. Well, you do so many amazing things, Corinne. I just can't wait to see what else you offer here and what else you bring forward. If people want to reach you, contact you, how would they do that?
So I have my website is www.rainbowhealingcottage.com. And so you can reach, you can go to the website. My email is also on the Discover Your Spiritual Gifts website, because we have a page there, which links back to all of that. And it has my phone number and things there. I'm usually in the center Saturdays and Sundays. And, I'm also available during weeknights.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming out today. Thanks for taking the day to come and hang out with Dave and I for a little bit this morning. We always love to have people come and hang out with us, huh, Dave?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both.
Well, thanks so much.
Well, thank you all listeners. Thanks for joining us again. Our next guest is going to be Colleen Andraste. And please continue listening to our show. We're going to have some messages from several of our practitioners here at DYSG, and they're very informative. So have a great week.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Serta. I first began communicating with spirit guides and angels at the age of 4. My gifts evolved with my first medium experience when my biological grandfather came to me to help comfort my mother during her grief. In my mid-30s, I connected to earth energy for grounding and meditation. This was how I was able to connect the dots on how my gifts can assist others. I work with clients who are looking for deeper clarity in life and provide channeled messages and techniques for clients to tap into their own soul voice. My sessions typically involve tuning into earth energy and spirit rock readings, channeled messages from spirit, and spiritual coaching. I'm available Mondays and Fridays from 10 to 5, the second and fourth Saturday of the month from 10 to 5. You can see me for an appointment at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. The best way to schedule an appointment is via my email at sserda@msn.com, or you can send me a text or give me a call at 303-229-5616.
This is Janice Dow, and I want to help you live a life of ease, joy, and grace. I help people who want more happiness, may be feeling stuck or burdened, may want more energy, or want to take control of the mental chatter in their mind. Our body-mind is very powerful, and if we understand how it works, we can bring about positive change in our lives. Change is constant, and you may be swept up and feel powerless, but I can show you a different way of being. You can direct the change via intention, where you become empowered through evolution and transformation. You can learn to be powerful and energetic. We truly live in an age where self-directed transformation and evolution is possible. In 2013, I lost my job. And when working with a career coach, I was told that I was unconsciously giving my daughter all of my vital energy. And once I understood the need for boundaries, I began learning about subtle energy as I restructured my approach to my relationship with my daughter and moving forward in my energy work. And luckily, I'm able to apply what I have learned to self-care. I can do the same for you. My unique approach combines brain and body-mind sciences with the unseen world of subtle energy. These modalities are the secret sauce that help you to move with more grace and ease. Each session is tailored to your needs. You can be happier today. You can be in the flow of the universe. You can quiet the chatter in your mind. You can do it, and we'll have fun. I'm at Discover Your Spiritual Gift Center on Tuesdays.
I am Colleen Andraste. I am a spirit medium, psychic, and channel for the angelic realm, and I have been intuitive or psychic my entire life. I began my interest in this work as a young child. I saw my mother with my eyes open after she passed 2 different times, so my beliefs were confirmed, and that is what opened the doors for me. How I help clients today is that I'm primarily clairaudient, clairvoyant. I'm also an empath. So I tune into their energy through the vibration of their name, and spirit will talk to me about what messages they have for the client. It can range, it's wide ranges actually, but my primary goal is to empower my client and to bring them a sense of well-being and peace, and to know that they're always being cared for and they are not doing this alone. They're not walking the earth plane alone. I am available the 3rd Sunday of the month at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.